Hello and welcome to the third of our 2014 BP Education STEM Talks. BP Education aims to bring science topics to life for young people. We've been doing that all week by inviting school students to hang out with BP scientists and enabling them to find out more about what they do. And today we continue on that theme. Other people will be able to watch these hangouts live on our YouTube channel right now, or alternatively we'll be uploading them later. They'll also be available on the BP Education website. Today we are joined by Mark Sankey, who works in the Carbon Solutions Department at BP. This is the area of the business that looks at reducing carbon emissions, and Mark works specifically on biofuels. He's based in Sunbury, just outside London, and we're looking forward to finding out more about what exactly his job entails. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Max.
We are also joined by Tiffin School in Kingston, who have some questions for Mark. So we'll hand over to them now. So can we have the first question, please?
Hi Mark, my name's Tom and my question for you is, what do you do and what sort of things does your job require you to do?
Hi Tom, thanks for your question. Well, I'm a chemical engineer and I do work in the research and development of ways to reduce carbon dioxide emissions in energy generation. So my work involves maths and physics and chemistry and applying these. As you probably know, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that's been linked to global warming, and as the world's population is set to continue to grow, all these people will need energy, so it's important to try to find ways to provide energy while reducing the amount of carbon dioxide that we produce as far as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Could we have the second question, please?
Hi Mark, my name is Brendan and my question for you is, what are you working on at the moment?
Hi Brendan. I work a large amount of my time on a biofuels project. Biofuels are fuels that are made from renewable biomass, which could be something like sugarcane or corn or wheat or vegetable oil. And I'm specifically working on developing a new biofuel technology with BP and also working with another company, and that technology is called the Sugar to Diesel project. And as it says on the tin, it does just that. We take sugarcane and we can turn it into renewable diesel fuel to use in vehicles. The heart of that process is a special microorganism, a bit like a yeast, which digests sugar and then turns it into oils and fats. In the same way that when we eat too much sugar, we get fat. And then we can extract the fats called lipids and can process them to turn them into diesel.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. And could we have the next question, please?
Hi Mark, I'm Orlando. And my question for you is, what are the advantages of biofuels?
Well, there's a few advantages. The most obvious one is that biofuels produce less carbon dioxide than conventional fossil fuels, and that's because the amount of carbon dioxide released when you burn the fuel is the same amount that is absorbed by the plant when it grows in the first place. So you sort of the carbon balance. There's a carbon balance there. Now there is a problem that biofuels are not carbon neutral. And some carbon dioxide is released, and that's because carbon dioxide is released when you produce the biofuels. So, for example, to grow plants, we tend to use fertilizers, and fertilizers require fossil fuels to be made. And another thing is that in converting biomass into a finished fuel that you can use in a car, like gasoline or diesel, sometimes you will find that carbon dioxide is released in that process because of the sort of chemistry of the operation. So not completely carbon neutral. However, a lot of biofuels give a reduction in carbon dioxide emissions compared to normal fuel of at least 50%, and it's possible to achieve up to 90% or more emissions, a reduction in emissions depending on what technology you use and what crop you use. And another potential advantage of biofuels is it can reduce dependence on traditional fossil fuels. So, for example, a country like the UK could grow wheat and turn that into ethanol and be used as an alternative to petrol, and that can reduce our dependence on importing oil from abroad.
Perfect. Could we have the next question, please, from Tiffin?
Hi Mark and Joe, and my question is, are there any other problems with biofuels, possibly financially?
Hi Joe, yeah, this is a very good question. So you're absolutely right. Biofuels can be expensive to produce, and that is a challenge, and that's, I guess, an important part of where the engineering comes in. So a large part of my role is to try to make this biofuel process that I'm working on as cost effective as possible. So we do that by designing cleverer ways of growing the crops and processing the crops and getting the fuels to the market. There are also some ethical issues around the use of biofuels. So you may have heard of the so-called food versus fuel debate, which is where some people are concerned that growing biofuels could mean that there's less food for people to eat and could potentially cause increases in the price of food. But there are ways to prevent this, and this is an important part of the work that BP's been doing. So, for example, you can produce biofuels from parts of the crop or from land which isn't suitable for food, and BP's been working on that. Another thing is the effect you have on food supplies is influenced by the crop that you use. So in the project I'm working on, we're particularly aiming to use sugarcane grown in Brazil, and there's a huge amount of sugarcane grown in Brazil, which is a more sustainable way of doing biofuels than the traditional way of making biodiesel, which is to use vegetable oils. So there are a lot of challenges to solve, but there are also solutions that we can work towards.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And the next question, please.
Hello Mark, my name is Raj, and my question is, what got you interested into this area of expertise?
That's the question. Well, three things. Firstly, I got interested in chemical engineering because it's a highly varied subject involving lots of types of science and technology. So when I was at school, I couldn't really decide between whether I wanted to do physics or chemistry or maths, or I even liked biology as well, and chemical engineering allows me to do all of those things. Another great thing about chemical engineering is it involves the application of science to solve real-world problems, like, for example, this problem of providing sustainable and affordable energy. So I really enjoyed science, but I wanted to be able to use the science to make a difference in the world. And the third thing that specifically is why I'm working in biofuels is, for a long time I've cared about the environment, and I want to be able to make a difference in that. And chemical engineers can play a key role in developing the technologies which will hopefully help us to reduce our emissions and look after the environment better, while still providing energy and food and so on for the world.
It's really great to hear. I think we might have a few more questions from Tiffin. If we could have the next one, please.
Hi Mark, I'm Joe, and my question is, what would be your words of wisdom to budding young scientists?
Hi Joe, thanks for the question. Well, one of the things I found particularly useful when I was at school was to read up about some science. For example, looking in some popular science magazines or books. So for magazines, some good titles include things like New Scientist or Scientific American, and there are loads of good popular science books, and these will hopefully give you a bit of a flavour of what science is happening in the world outside of what you do at school, and will hopefully show you how exciting it is, and they may even inspire you to work in a particular area of science. If you want some recommendations on books or magazines, I'm sure you could ask your teacher or your library at school, and they can probably help you.
Great, thank you. We are coming towards the end of our time now, but if we have got any more questions from Tiffin, I think we've probably got time for a couple more.
Yep.
Hi Mark, I'm Marco, and I want to know what do you think the future of biofuels is at BP?
The future of biofuels at BP, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a growing area. BP regards biofuels as the fastest and most cost-effective way to reduce carbon emissions in transport fuels. And there's a lot of different projects that BP's working on and different technologies. So I think it's only likely to become a bigger part of BP's portfolio.
Great, thank you very much. And if we could just have one final question from Tiffin.
Okay, go on. The Kim hasn't touched on it.
Hi there.
Hi Mark, my name's Hakim, and I would like to ask you what the limiting factors for the amount of biofuel produced.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
What the limiting factors for the amount of biofuel produced would be?
Okay, thanks. So limiting factors for producing biofuel. Well, obviously a key one is to do with the amount of land available, and that depends on what crop you're growing and where you do it. In Brazil, there's lots of land available for sugarcane, so that's not quite such a problem. Cost is a major issue. To be able to produce fuels cost effectively, because no one wants to pay more for the fuel that they put in their car, for example. And there are also some issues around how much of a biofuel you can put in a car engine. So there are different biofuels available. You may know, for example, that ethanol is one of those. And in a conventional car engine, a petrol car engine, there is a limit on how much ethanol you can put in. But there are ways to get around those limits. You can either modify the engine, or you could find a different different fuel molecules to put in the engine. And BP's been particularly working on that approach of finding fuel molecules that are so similar to the conventional fuels that we use that you don't have such a limit on how much fuel you can put in. So that's just a few of the limitations.
Great, thank you. Right, well, I'm afraid that is all we have time for today. Thank you very much to Mark Sankey and to Tiffin School for joining us. We'll be back with more Hangouts in the next academic year. So until then, we hope you have an excellent summer break. For more information on these Hangouts, BP Education and all the resources that are on offer there, please go to www.bp.com/BPS. Goodbye, and thank you again to Mark, and thank you to Tiffin.
Thank you.
Well.
Bye. Thanks.